I thought roofing sales were like car sales. I had no idea about sales. All I knew is what I experienced myself, and I didn't want to be that person. I spent a lot of time in hotels, a lot of time on the road, which, as you know, requires a lot of personal responsibility and accountability. At the end of the day, I think what makes me good at this is I care. You have to know what questions to ask. The one question I ask as a contractor to a homeowner is, what's important for you in a contractor? Who do you want your contractor to be? And usually that question stumps them because no one's ever actually sat down and thought about that. With Qualis Roofing and Construction, Justin Lamb is my name and roofing and goofing is my game. This is the Working Class Roundup.
Saddle up. Punch that clock. Let's ride. This is the Working Class Roundup. Spurs truck, boots up, hands rub. Clock in, hold on, don't fold up. We get paid, get drained, still show up. From the plant yard dust to the highway rust. Raise that cup, let's sound off. This is the Working Class Roundup.
Welcome to the Working Class Roundup. I'm your host, Cowboy Jody Collins, and with me today I have a very special guest, Justin Lamb. Justin, how you doing, my roofing and goofing buddy?
Hey, brother, I'm doing good. How are you?
Awesome. Roofing and goofing. I love that phrase, right? Now I want to know, how did you get into the roofing game?
Okay, no, good question, because I don't think anyone really ever, grows up aspiring to be a roofer. Now, I speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody else. I went to the University of North Texas. I graduated in 2013, and I was actually in the environmental sector. Yeah, so I worked alongside the oil and gas industry for 7 years. COVID came in 2020, and the industry shut down, and I got laid off. And I had a good friend who kept telling me for years, hey, man, you'd be great in sales. You'd be great in sales. You should come over to the roofing side. I never wanted to until that day I got laid off. I thought roofing sales were like car sales. I thought, I just didn't know. I had no idea about sales. All I knew is what I experienced myself. And I didn't want to be that person because I'd experienced bad salesmen, pushy salesmen. But I quickly realized that it's a customer service business. It's not a sales business. Okay. So it wasn't part of my master plan. At first, I wasn't proud of it. If I'm being honest, I thought of myself doing something that sounded more important, right? But quickly I found out that what I do is very important because I'm helping everybody restore their homes back to the original condition, whether that be after a storm or just, renovation. So I actually find a lot of personal joy doing what I do now, more than what I did for the oil and gas industry.
Wow. And you know what? That's so true, because again, a lot of people don't understand, but the home represents the biggest asset most people have, right?
Listen,
It's their, as a friend of mine says, it's their fortress of solitude, right? It's the place that protects your family. It's the place that when you're out on a business trip, they're safe in that home. And so, yeah, it makes a big difference. How did being in the oil and gas help you with the roofing side of things? Because I know for my own personal self, I had a similar experience, but how does that help you?
well, so I did a lot of traveling when I was in the oil and gas business. I traveled from Texas up to North Dakota. That's where if you ever want to go see a refinery, a gas plant, or a wellhead, you go just straight up the Northwest, right? Um, y- I was very much a remote worker doing that. I spent a lot of time in hotels, a lot of time on the road, which, as you know, requires a lot of personal responsibility and accountability. Um, at the end of the day, I think what makes me good at this is I care. You just have to care, right? What I tell people, what I tell all of my guys if I'm helping train and develop anybody is treat every single customer like they're your grandmother, right? And that takes the complexity out of, okay, should I be doing this? Should I be saying this? Should I be doing that? No. Picture you're going to your grandmother's house. Take your shoes off. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Treat them with respect and hear them out. Hear their concerns. And I'm just lucky that I had a good mom and dad who taught me to listen being intentional listening, and not just to listen, but to hear them and hear what they're saying and to actually care about, potentially solving their problems. I'm not going to give any credit to, the oil and gas industry. I wish I could. I really do. I enjoyed what I did. I was very good at it,
Right.
but I didn't have there was no gratification that came from it. Right. I was helping the big guys stay out of trouble with the EPA. Right. Now I'm helping the little guys against you, the big guys, the insurance.
Oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm not a carrier, and I love my carriers. No, but no, it's a little different. It's one of those things. And again, I had a similar story. I fell into insurance because I needed a job. I was a pool builder in Arizona, and my back went out, and I couldn't build pools anymore. And went to a job fair, and they were hiring, and they hired me because of my experience, because I had seen construction. I understood the layers of construction, how subs come in and they have these timetables. So it was a perfect segue into the insurance world because I understood how the pie was put together, so I could handle claims and I understood the process. I'm scared. But did any of that understanding of how things are done on an environmental standpoint help you with the roofing?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of collaboration on that side. So for my sector specifically was detecting infrared gases that were leaking out of valves and pipes, right?
Okay.
But we had our engineers that we had to report to. We had the client that we had to, format what we knew our language into something that they could understand,
Okay.
which is, a lot about roofing. There's a lot of roofing terms and insurance terms that the normal everyday person doesn't come across unless it's once every 7 to 10 years when they file that claim. Right. Insurance scopes, they're not designed to trick people, but if you don't read these kind of things all day, every day, like I do, it looks like a foreign language. So my specialty, I'm glad you actually asked that. My specialty is being able to translate English to English, just in the layman's term, right?
Legalese to layman's
Yes.
terms, right? That's
Yeah.
what I say. Legalese to layman's
I
terms.
like it.
That's a good way to look at it. That's awesome. Now, as far as because I know roofing, you have a philosophy though it's important, because I remember you sharing in the networking meeting that because right now there's not any I mean, there's been some storms, but nothing major that has damaged roofs. But now is like most important time. Why is that?
Now is the most important time. Elaborate a little bit.
Well, you were saying like getting somebody up and looking at the roof
Okay.
before
Yes.
the proverbial stuff happens, right?
Yes. Yeah. So what I like to do in, let's say, quote unquote off season, right? Let's say December to end of February is our off season, right? You don't get a whole lot of, severe weather in North Texas. We'll get our ice storms, but we don't get the sky diamonds, as we call them, right? In the roofing industry. Right now, what I like to do for a lot of my customers, almost all of them who take me up on it, is to provide a free health inspection of your roof. Okay. And what that is to get an assessment with a time and date stamp of what your roof looks like today before we move into storm season. Because it's not a matter of if you're going to get hit by a storm, it's just when and how hard. So the goal is to get a baseline of what the health assessment of roof is today. Now, let's say they go through a few storms in the next couple months, and they're like, you know what, we want to file a claim. Well, sometimes, but not all the time, an adjuster will go out there, an insurance adjuster will go out there, and they try to, age the damage. And it's very hard to do on a roof, especially in this weather, because you have the sun beating down all day. You have a lot of rain, a lot of cold, hot days. So our goal is to get around that. We don't want to have that conversation. We don't want the homeowner to, be sitting on their hands and just eat whatever the insurance is serving them, right? Homeowners won't get on their roofs. I don't blame them. You rarely see homeowners hanging their Christmas lights nowadays, and I have never seen a homeowner on the roof doing an inspection.
Yeah, Texas has some of those severe pitches on roofs that I ever seen.
And a lot of the newer homes, they're all very, very steep, right?
Yeah.
You can't get on there. I can't get on there, right? I have my Cougar Paws, which Cougar Paws are, roofing shoes. They have a foam bottom. They're amazing. And my wife bought them for me. She gave me so much, I don't know if I could say this, shit for not wearing them. She didn't like it. She knows what I do is dangerous. Being a roofer is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, right? It just is, because there's two types of roofers. There's the roofers who have fallen off a roof, and there's the roofers who have not fallen off yet, right? I'm still in the latter, but thankfully we have drones now, and we don't take chances, right? And drone inspections are actually becoming more and more popular because of the steepness of these roofs, and because it's not necessary to get on the roof all the time.
Yeah.
If there is damage to the severity that you need to get your insurance involved, you can see it with the drone. You don't have to get on with your feet. And that way you have less foot traffic, you have less people going up there. And there's a lot of, crooked contractors.
Right. That was something that I had a note here to ask you about. One of the biggest Google questions out there was about fraud with regards to roofs, right? Enhancing the damage, right? There was a storm. There was a legitimate storm. And then hail in Texas is no joke. I mean, there are people out there who don't know what DFW hail is like. My hand, I have a picture. We'll see if we can put it on the podcast here. That the hailstone is as big as my palm, right? And I have a size 13 ring finger, so you can gauge how big that stone was as they were coming down, and they shatter and they damage things. But sometimes people just they invent ways that, let's put a golf ball on a sock, and or those wear golf shoes up on the roof and damage a little bit more. There's some crazy stuff that I've seen.
Yes.
And yeah, it's not good.
No. And honestly, so the chatter for 2025 and 2026, and really the reality in Texas, is insurance rates have skyrocketed, right? A lot of that is because of my industry, because of the roofing industry, because there are so many folks that take advantage of situations. I've read the craziest stories about people putting, golf balls in a sock and hitting fences to get fence marks, or garage doors, or even the roof. I read a story about a guy wearing his soccer cleats up on a roof to get a lot of damage. The limits that people will go to get a roof claimed with their insurance is limitless, right? I mean, people will do whatever it takes, unfortunately. And with the influx of claims, and it's unfortunately made rates go up. There are more bad contractors than there are good contractors. And the main reason for it, Jody, is because there's no requirement in the state of Texas to have a roofing license.
Okay, so that poses the natural question, right? What is a homeowner to do?
Right.
Because they come knocking on your door, they come calling on your cell. Hey, have you had damage? They're like, I'm not going to put them in the say class as lawyers, but they chase after, right? Not the ambulance, but the homeowner, right?
Yep.
So what do they do?
Yeah. So have you ever heard of a Larry in a ladder, or a Chuck in a wagon? Yeah. Chuck in a truck, right? Like, there's a lot of terms for it, but these are the small mom and pop shops, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think everyone is entitled to make their money how they make their money, if we do it legally and we do it ethically, right? What these guys are doing is they're, they'll come in from Oklahoma, from Louisiana, or just different parts of Texas, and they'll come knocking on the door, starting at 7 a.m. after a hailstorm. And the first thing they'll say, you know what, we can go and get your roof replaced. We'll file a claim, no money out of pocket. What does no money out of pocket to you mean? It means I'll pay your deductible.
Yeah.
Right. The one thing that homeowners' responsibility in an insurance claim is the deductible comes out of pocket.
Yeah.
It's hard for homeowners, especially in today's economy, to pass that up. But they're also not educated on what can happen, right, in the future. I've heard a lot, and I've worked a lot of homeowners to where they've had that promise at the door, and they've given half their money up front to get the materials, and that phone never gets answered again. Those materials never get dropped off, and they go back and they do this to 20 to 30 different folks who they're almost preying on, knowing that they don't have money for the deductible.
Yeah, that's sad. That is sad, because there's nothing protecting them. Nothing. They're not an insurance policy. Nothing. It's yeah. So again, Justin, what's the answer? What do you do?
You have to know what questions to ask. Okay. The one question I ask as a contractor to a homeowner is, what's important for you in a contractor? Who do you want your contractor to be? And usually that question stumps them because no one's actually sat down and thought about that, right?
It's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you need to ask for their COI. You make sure they're insured to the amount that at least their home's valued to, right? You need to go online, make sure they have a legitimate website, right? You need to make sure that their phone number is usually the area code in that area that they live, because if it's not, they could be out of town. I've seen guys make fake business cards and get fake addresses for a storm just to work that storm and call themselves local. Okay. You have to want to know about warranty, about product. There's a lot of things that happen. So if you're a homeowner out there and you're not asking these questions, you're basically just hoping this contractor has good intentions. And that's a big bet, especially like you said at the very beginning. It's a huge bet to make on the biggest asset you own, your home. Does that ring? I mean,
No,
do you agree? Yeah, it drives me crazy because and there's nothing wrong with door knocking, right? That's proven to be the most efficient way to get business. It's the easiest way to get face to face in a customer, but you have to do your vetting. You cannot never ever agree to work with a contractor on the first meeting when they knock the door.
See, and that's the thing. I mean, this is a slippery slope, right? So they immediately, once you talk to, oh yeah, I go up there. Well, look, there's a picture. I got doing damage up there. Well, you go ahead and sign this here thing that you're going to use me, right? That proverbial sign this before I walk away.
The old contingency.
Yeah. That's scary.
It's a real thing, right? I mean, our company also has that, but it's the manner in which that plays out. And I don't always have someone sign that. If it's obviously a personal friend, a relative, or a referral, then I'm not going to push that on them. Everyone has the freedom to choose whatever contractor they want.
Right.
Okay. But if you agree to sign something like that on the first time, the first meeting at the door, you're only doing yourself a disservice. Doesn't matter what they're offering. If they're offering no money out of pocket, you have to ask yourself, well, where is that money going? Is that value being taken away from the roofing materials, from the quality of crew I'm using, from the warranty you may provide me, or just from the customer service after the fact? If 6 months come by and I have a leak, are you going to answer your phone? Right. And it all sounds like very easy baseline things that a contractor should have. But at the end of the day, Jody, it always comes down to money. Okay. But that's why you work with a company who can offer financing. I have a lot of homeowners who finance the deductibles because they don't have 5 to 10.
See, I'm glad you brought that, because that's a creative way of doing it. And I often ask my carriers that I write the insurance through for businesses, do you guys finance it? Because again, we up in the North Texas market, we think our deductibles are high, right? If you think 2%. Down in the Houston and the Galvestons and the Beaumonts and the Corpus Christis, they have this thing called a hurricane deductible that's 5% of the value of the home.
Yep.
We say that again, 5% of the value of the home. I mean, that's, basically they're self-insuring their roof.
100%.
If a hurricane comes in. So that's where, again, that financing can come in and be a lifesaver.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, we offer financing. And typically it's an easy process. It's on our website. It's a soft credit pool. You just basically see how much you're approved for, right? But that ensures, because you have to understand, if you don't have proof that you paid your deductible, the way the insurance works now is they don't just give you one check. Okay. 15 to 20 years ago, you file a claim, they give you one check and they say, okay, go get bids, get your work done. We're done here, right? Now they've learned over the years that folks will not use all that money to put into their house. They're devaluing their home, which insurance cares about. And or they're not getting the work done. So now they'll release your money in different stages, but the only way you get that back end payment, depending on what policy, is if there's proof you paid your deductible. And there's so many people struggling financially that there's no other option but to offer financing.
Yeah, it's a drink again. Well, you said it, but we got to take a break. My producer over there is telling me I got to take a break. So, Rookie Glass Nation, hang on. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors and our partners. I'll be right back.
So, social media. Let's talk about it. So with social media these days, video content is key. It's just a fact of life. If you're not posting video content on a weekly basis for your business, you're missing a huge amount of attention that could be coming to you. And attention is awareness. And awareness is trust. Trust brings clients. If you're interested in knowing a little bit on how video content can help your business, then click on the link below and we'll go from there.
In the Middle Ages, they called it a shield. In the modern days, they call it a wingman. And what I call it today is an insurance carrier. And we're there to get your backside, to protect you, to keep your assets in line. And that's what we do here at Amax Commercial. If you need commercial auto, if you need general liability, workers' comp, we've got all the products that protect your business. Reach out to us today with the link down below. We can try to help protect you. A to the max effort is what we're about. Now back to the show. Welcome back to the Working Class Roundup. I'm Cowboy Jody Collins, and with me is Justin, my roofing guru, my roofing and goofing guru. In the first segment, we talked about roofs, right, and how they're handled from a carrier standpoint, and how they, your terms, wisened up. And I want to expand on that and explain how that works now. Every carrier a little bit different, but they all have the basic common practicality of it. They knew people were going out getting 3 bids, submitting the high one, taking the money, going to the low one, and pocketing cash. They knew that. They knew it. And it wasn't a big deal until frequency, which is an insurance term, which basically says how often a claim is happening, increased. Where frequency, especially in the Tornado Alley and in Oklahoma, like Moore, Oklahoma, poor Moore, they got hit like 3 and 4 times in a 5-year period, right? That's where they're like, hold the phone. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That dog don't hunt. We're not playing this no more. So what they've done is they've adopted a system where they say, okay, you make a claim, it's a valid claim, we're going to pay you ACV, actual cash value. What that means, real simple layman's terms, is they say when you get a brand new roof, or when you have a brand new roof put on it's at 100% value. Every year that value decreases by a small percentage. And I'm just using this for an example. So year 2, it's worth 95% of what you paid for it. Year 3, it's now worth 90%. Year 4, it's now 85%, right? And so what'll happen is if you make a claim and it's like year 6 of that roof, they're going to depreciate it and they're going to cut you a check for 70% of the value of that roof. Now, if you were to take that value and go to a contractor like yourself, it's enough money to get the work started. And then once you present the receipt of, hey, this is the balance due to fully replace the roof, then the insurance company will release those funds. But they know there are people out there that will take the ACV and they'll run and try to figure it out.
Right.
And that's where, yeah, there's some issues where you run into, I'm sure you run into it, where somebody made a claim, but they didn't use the roof to replace it. They patched it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they saw that Flex Seal commercial, I'm not endorsing, and they just painted around, you know what I mean?
Oh, I've gone through it with many homeowners where we file a claim. They told me they've never filed a claim. The adjuster comes out a few weeks later. I meet them on site. And the first thing they say is, hey, just letting you know, they filed a claim 4 years ago and they never got it done. So I'm not sure why I'm out here. And that is the most deflating thing, you know, number one, because it's a breach of trust for me. For me, I want the homeowners to trust me, and I want to be able to trust them on what they're telling me is true, because I can't help you if you're not being honest.
Yeah.
Right.
True with that.
Yeah. So, no, I'm actually a big fan of insurance releasing money in different stages, because it keeps the process more honest.
Yeah.
And it helps out the legitimate companies. If we were just doing one check still, then it would be really hard to grow your business, because you have so many people that have less overhead undercutting you. And undercutting you only means devaluing your,
Right.
no other way to put it.
Right. Well, because and I've always explained this when I'm writing a policy, a property policy for a commercial or even residential. A nail costs what a nail costs.
Yes.
Right. A board costs what a board costs. A truss costs what it costs. The labor you can negotiate, but there's only so much wiggle room on the labor even. So if they're undercutting you, they're going to cut that money from something.
And it's not their profit.
Right. And that's exactly. And that's where you're like, again, you got to understand that they're a business. Nothing's free. Right. Maybe they're recycling nails from old board. I don't know, but you know, you got to be cautious of anything that sounds too good to be true. It's because it is.
Yep.
Right. So,
So there was an interesting question. My producer Jonathan threw it at me. He goes, "So what happens if you run into that customer who they fell for it, hook, line, and sinker? The knock on the door, the sign is here. You pay them the ACV to get the jar stopping, and then whoop, they ghost you. They're gone. What is it? What can a homeowner do?" From a movies,
Yeah.
what can you advise other do? I know what it is on commercial side.
Yeah, on your side, I mean, it's really because a lot of these guys who are doing this, who are taking off, like you can't find them. There are seriously, Jody, there are contractors who, let's say a hurricane hits down in Louisiana this year. I promise you, there'll be a handful of contractors to get new phone numbers, new business cards, and as soon as that's done, they won't. There is absolutely no recourse.
Yeah.
And they're not protected. Now, I'd like to hear on your side, on the insurance side, if there is protection, but I've had a lot of people call me crying. They're just like, look, they told me, I mean, they could handle it. They could do it next week. They could do it for this cost. They'll have materials dropped off tomorrow. And I trusted them. And I still think they might come through. I'm like, you're never going to hear from them again. And it makes all the legitimate guys look terrible because everyone puts us in the same pot.
I'm going to say most carriers, now not an agent, but most carriers that we write the policy through have what's called a preferred vendor list, right? And that list, in order to get on it, they have to jump through hoops. They have to do some serious work. They have to show their financial stability. They have to show their craftsmanship, and they're vetted. And those are the ones. Now, they're not always the cheapest. That's the word that sometimes homeowners don't want to hear, that they're not the cheapest. And it doesn't mean they're going to throw in a bunch of extras, but they do it right. They do it fair, and they list. They're transparent. Here's our prices. Here's what we do. And the insurance carriers say we like to work with them because they don't try to play the game on the other side, right? You mentioned the first segment, if they're coming up saying, "Oh no, you won't have to pay anything out of pocket," well, they're talking about that deductible. That's not allowed. They're not supposed to do that. And if they're doing that, again, they're cutting it somewhere, or they're going to gouge the carrier. They're going to inflate the cost to try to make that difference up. And that's not a good thing. And that's why those vendor lists are so important. They're trusted partners.
Right.
And we know that if you go for somebody off this list, when they hand us a bill, it's still going to be a legitimate bill. If there's an addendum where they found some more damage that wasn't discovered on the first walkthrough, there's not that questioning of, well, wait, what is this? It's like, okay, they know their stuff. This is a legitimate claim.
Well, and I know some companies that are preferred vendors for different carriers, right? And they all do great work. And no, they're not cheap. But in construction, you know as well as I do, cheap is not equal good. If you go cheap, and that's okay if you want to go cheap, it's just going to be a lot quicker. That the lifespan of that roof is going to be a lot less than what someone does it for what insurance says it's worth. There's a lot of distrust in insurance right now. It's very easy for everyone to just, bash the big guy, bash insurance companies. But insurance proceeds for a roof replacement, it's fair.
Yeah.
And that's the majority of what we work off of is insurance proceeds. They use a system called Xactimate. We also have that and use it, so we're speaking the same language.
And that's the key thing about it. And a lot of people, I hear you guys were making money on over business. Like, whoa, slowly roll there. Hold on, let me educate you on this. Most in North Texas, most homeowners insurance policies anywhere from $1,500 to as high as like $4,800. Right? I'm speaking because I know on the north end that's what it's costing, right? Even if you're on the high end of that, right? A roof costs what? If you have to totally replace an asphalt shingle roof for a hail resistant roof for a
average roof is about 18 to 20 grand.
There you go, 18 to 20 grand for an average roof, right? And even at an average premium, let's pick a number in the middle, $2,000 a year. How many years would you have to pay that premium without any claims in the state of Texas before you break even?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So homeowners insurance carriers are always in the rears, always, because you're paying a little bit of premium covering a brand new roof. And there's some areas that it could gotten hit multiple times. I'm not gonna lie, with desk care, I haven't been hit in recent years, but there was a time period where we had 3 hail events in a 3-year period. 2 of those we had to replace the roof. And so there was a point where my wife and I were like, okay, this is the carrier we're with for the next 3 years because we're uninsurable. We cannot move.
Yeah.
Carriers don't want that type of activity. You got to ride it. The rate cranked up. We let it ride. You got to let it ride because that's the nature of it. It's like, okay, I had to use it. It was a catastrophe. It damaged the entire roof, the air conditioner, all that stuff. But now I've got to pay, pay me now, pay me later. My wife always says that, pay me now, pay me later. That's the nature of insurance. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it's tough, especially living in some of those weird neighborhoods that do consistently get hit. Like I've roofed the same house 3 times, right? And 3 different storms, and it does not make me feel good. I'm more than happy to do it, and it's good for business, right? But I also know if the roles were reversed, there'd be a for sale sign in my front yard after that.
Well, see, it's the biggest thing. It's like, because of the situation, you cannot make any other type of claim because the minute you do is they drop you.
Your liability.
Right. Because again, it's not it's a business. At the end of the day, these insurance companies are businesses. They have to generate a little bit of revenue. And so that's where it gets a little bit tricky. And again, counseling customers is super important, right? Don't, oh, there's an element I'm making a claim. Whoa, slow down. Have to check it first. Somebody reliable. Yes. And that's the big thing. Reliability. Check the roofing contractor. Check how long they've been in business. Check how many roofs they've done. But they've been in the market for a long time. That's really, really important.
Well, and if we're just talking transparency here, I want something to be very clear. Just because you have a hailstorm does not mean that you have hail damage. Just because you have hail damage does not warrant you to file a claim for hail damage, right? It's not 1 = 1. It's not, okay, yeah, we got some hail, like what? And a lot of contractors will come by, hey, you got a hailstorm? Like, yeah, but it was pea-sized for 5 minutes. What's it going to do? Oh, we should probably still let your insurance know. No, don't do that. That's why we are where we are. Right? There's a lot of customers that have hail damage that I'm saying, you know what? You may not get approved, but if we're having this may or may not, then you don't need a new roof.
Hold out. Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you said that.
So if it's ever in the gray area, then just leave it alone and wait till the next storm.
You know what? That brings up a good point. I think, I think I'm gonna have to invite you back. I think we're gonna have a special session because we're coming up to the storm season. I think would you be open to doing that for us?
Let's do it, man.
Let's do that. All right. If everybody wanted to contact you, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, they can, go online to qualisroofingconstruction.com. We can find us that way. Do make it my personal information.
We'll drop it down in the link below. That way they want to contact you if they have any questions. If you have any questions for a residential roofer or commercial roofer, we can help you out with that. If you need to learn how to protect that as a business, then you can reach out to me and my team, and my posse will help you out with that. Justin, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your time, your expertise. Really appreciate it. And to the Working Class Nation, hey guys, love you. Happy sales and happy trails.